Hi, um, I received a few questions on fasting. This is not my topic. I don't have that much understanding about it. So I try to pretend I care about it, but I'm not really into it. Um, Let me start with my story. In 2016, I had a radical encounter with God. I became crazy about the presence. I wanted to do it, like wanted to be as close to God as possible. I wanted to spend all my time, all my energy, waste my whole life on the kingdom. That's how I was. And as part of it, tried to do like as much worship, as much prayer, as much fasting as possible. And I tried to fast on water. I never tried without water. Um, I tried to fast on water, and I was doing okay. So most people were like felt sick and felt like fainting. I was doing okay. Um, there was one time when I was like so weak, I had to take a bite so that I can get out of bed. The only strange thing that happened to me is that I could only walk downstairs, but not upstairs. I had to climb upstairs. It was so funny. Um, so very soon I realized that this water fasting is not going to be my business because I'm so weak. As a 90 some um, um, elderly's home citizen or something like that. Um, so so I was just thinking about what can I do that is kind of like more sustainable than that, and that's when I started to do a 40 days long fast only on raw fruits and vegetables, no grains included, and it was good. I was like hungry all the time, but I had no bad symptoms, like no fainting, no weakness, nothing, like only positive effects. I felt I had like more vitality, I felt better in my body, I could focus more. It just helped my entire being, and then I felt like maybe I should make a lifestyle out of it. So I continued to be vegan for like 2 years after that. Now I can't be vegan because my roommate is really, my flatmate is really not into it. So I had to eat normal food every now and then. And that's what I do now. I can go to McDonald's if my friends want it, but if I buy food for myself, I buy healthy things. And that is basically it. In 2017, I've been to a John Crowder's meeting, and this has flipped my world upside down. Um, I I got an insight into the gospel, like how much it is all finished and how much Jesus has done it all, what could have been done, and it's over, and everything is okay forever. Um, and after that, it was hard for me to find a solid theological reason in my head to start fasting again. So it's like, if God is that good and I can't convince him to be better, then what? Like, if everything that could be done had been done, then how could I add to it? So I just lost interest in fasting, to be honest, like altogether. Um, um, uh, I was like very enthusiastic about fasting and doing extreme things because I loved God, and I was like, I want to do it all that takes. And I was listening to all these preachers who say that they can raise the dead if they fast enough and things like that. And I don't doubt what they say. I just feel like that my understanding of the gospel doesn't allow me to do that. It's like, I don't know why. It's just doesn't come together. But back then, when I listened to those big men and women of God, I was like, okay, if this is what it takes, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna go all the way down. No matter what is the cost, I'm gonna pay it. I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna be very close to God. I'm gonna carry the anointing. I'm gonna, and let me tell you, some positive effects were present. Like, I felt better in my body when being on the fruits and vegetables, because that's quite reasonable. Like, your whole body feels better. You eat more natural, and it helps you. And I think there is something spiritual about eating healthily. Like, you can focus more. You can see God. You can feel better in your body, and it helps you spiritually as well if you feel healthier. And I'm not very much into healthy lifestyle. Like, I don't say that this is the key to spirituality, but if it doesn't help your body when you eat like terrible things all the time, it's like you don't cut your hands just because you believe God can like regrow it. So I don't destroy my health intentionally just because I believe God can heal me. So I think there is a point to eating healthily, but I don't say that this is the key. And yeah, if you don't eat healthily, don't expect God to bless you or something. But I think this whole fasting season has led me to a healthier lifestyle, and I'm happy about it. And every now and then I feel like going back to vegan, and because it feels good in my body. That's it. Yeah. And yes, there were some spiritual benefits to it because I concentrated on God more. I had more attention on God in these seasons, but it wasn't like God giving me a reward for my efforts. He was there all the time and He wanted to give it all to me. I was only willing to receive some of His blessings when I felt like I've earned it with my fasting. So there were some blessings in these seasons, but it was more like, contrary to my efforts, not the result of my effort. Yeah. To be honest, I expected like extreme breakthroughs and visitations to happen and all. Like I waited to I was like my relationship to God would explode when I do like that crazy radical steps, and none of that happened. Like little shifts, and basically I have more encounters with God while brushing my teeth than while I'm fasting. That's why I'm not very much into fasting. Like when I wake up and I'm half asleep and I'm thinking about how how my day is gonna go, and then the presence of God hits me just because I'm there. And that's what I believe, that God is there for you just because, and He's forever one way you, thanks to Jesus. And it shows up in different ways, and you have crazy encounters, but it is not related to your efforts. Yeah, that's why I believe. So when you want to fast, you need to ask questions. Do you want to convince God of something? Do you want him to do something he's not willing to if you don't do it? Do you want him to change for the better as if he wasn't good enough? Do you want to remove a principality in the second heaven that had been wiped away by Jesus? Or it's like you need to know why you fast. And so ridiculous, but we think that God needs our support, like God needs our encouragement, like he wants to eliminate abortion, but maybe if he do this hunger strike or something, he would like change his mind and really destroy it. Like he has done all that could be done, and the results of our choices and bad thinking will not be eliminated just because we fast. That's what I think. If God's mind could be changed about whether he crosses the line of our choices and free will, he would do it anyway. Like if it was an option, he would do it anyway. He wouldn't need our interaction, or I don't know. So I don't have a theological basis for fasting now. The only place for fasting for me right now is that sometimes I feel like I'm so much into eating and eating nice things. I kind of get addicted to eating and tastes and all that. And every now and then I feel like I should stop it just so that I can experience that I'm free from it. And sometimes like my mind tricks me and it says like, oh, now you should go eat, because if you don't eat, like it's gonna be wrong to your body. And I'm into something with God, and when I eat, like when I don't eat for 3 days, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like you don't want me. You don't allow me to spend another hour in the presence of God, so that because I should eat instead. I could do it like for days, and there's nothing wrong with that. So there is something about experiencing your freedom from food, and there is a joy of it. And if you have a very strict schedule, like working different jobs, having a family and all that, maybe 3 times half an hour is a lot of time that you can spend with God and commune with him instead of making your food. Maybe it helps you to like carve out more time with him. And it can help you to focus more. So many times those huge breakthroughs with fasting happen because someone's mind is, tuned to God. Like they devote this time with their actions, with their time, with their fasting, and they are set on it, and they open up to God during it. And if it helps you open up towards God, I think you can do it. Like everything can be an expression of love towards God. It's like, and it not the expression what matters. Like I can dance to God like as an expression. Dancing in itself doesn't mean anything, but if it's my expression of love, then it means a lot. It's between us. So you're fasting, if it's something like you do for God and you love doing it, then you should do it. The other thing is that when you have this like natural attraction to fasting, like you really feel like fasting, all you can think about, you want to do it like that, then it's the call of the Holy Spirit. Even if you don't have a theological background for it, you can't explain why it helps anyone. If you feel this like attraction to fasting, do that. Especially if you are like naturally, like you are not interested in food, or you're not interested in normal doings of life, it's like that is a clear sign that the God living in you wants to lead you somewhere. For example, in 2016, besides trying to make God's presence happen in my life and trying to draw closer to Him and things like that, I had this phase when all I could do is spending time with God and ministering, and I didn't cook, I didn't wash my clothes like for months. I was like the most negligent person. And it was an expression of love on my side. I wasn't basically interested in getting out of bed and walking 5 meters to the kitchen and get out food. It felt like a waste of time for me. Like I had my time with Jesus, and so just the idea that I would waste a minute for getting out of bed and walking to the kitchen, it was nonsense for me. And it is ridiculous, but I was in love, and I've done ridiculous things out of love, and it makes sense when you are falling in love. Yeah, so if it's an expression of love, do it. If it helps you clear your mind, do it. If it helps you focus on God and it gives this feeling to it, like sometimes I just light the candles when I'm with God, and there's silence and candles, and I could have been considered a witch in the Middle Age, like having crazy experiences with God and having candles with it. I don't know. I just love it. There's a feeling to it. Candles doesn't make God come closer to me. It gives me the feeling. And if fasting is that for you, then it's okay. Just don't attribute a power to it on its own. As if fasting makes the change, as if candles make the change. That's what I think now. And I know that it's hard to see all the wrong things happening in the world, and we want to shift, we want abortion to end, we want Donald Trump back, or whatever people want, that are maybe reasonable and maybe on God's heart, but I think it's the reflection of God's heart in us that we long for social issues to change. But this gap between what we see in the world and the fact that Jesus has done it all, between these two, there is this gap. There is the truth that everything is forever okay because Jesus has done it all, and there is the manifestation of whatever in the world and in our minds. And we try to bridge this gap, and we ask God, what can I do to bridge this gap? And God is like, no, it's not about what you can do to bridge it, it's about what you believe. And if you believe that will make your experience come closer to it. So all the terrible things in the world are the results of us believing less than what God has done for us. So our belief in less than the finished work of Christ makes those terrible things happen in the world, and makes those terrible things happen in our minds and in our lives. And the only way we can turn around this ship as believing the gospel and believing that everything is forever okay thanks to Jesus. And when we have our minds on that, we start to manifest this truth and this knowledge of the glory of God starts to cover the earth, because the glory of God is already covering the earth. It has covered the earth. It always covers the earth. It's just something beyond time. But as we get to know this truth, as we learn this truth, as we believe this truth, it starts to like manifest in us and through us. And so it's like, it's good that we want to bridge those gaps, but it's not the question of what can I do to bridge those gaps. It's like, what can I learn about what Jesus has done so that these experiences match with the truth. So it's more like we experience less than everything is okay because we believe less than everything is okay. And there's a friend of mine, and we were joking about, like, we Christians tend to say that New Agers are occult and these are occults. And the Christianity is the most occult thing in the world. Like, we are all about how to make things happen without relationship, how to do witchcraft, how to make things manifest, how to change God's mind, how many fasting, how many prayer, how many this and that makes God do what we want him to do. And we don't do it from wrong motivations most of the time, but this is what we do. And many times fasting is the biggest issue, because in prayer and worship we kind of have some love exchange going on, but fasting is something we typically do when we try to manipulate things. Like, this is something you don't feel like doing, and you only do it because you know it's the key. And we have this terrible mindset as Christians that there is an ingredient or a key to breakthrough, and if we follow the steps, then it will happen. And we are like an uncivilized tribal culture. We have this, how much you should jump, and you should cook this frog with those herbs, and that will do it, you know. Absolutely beyond sense. But we believe in them, and our beliefs sometimes produces some results, and then we are happy that our recipe works, and we fail to realize that it worked, but not because of our recipe, but contrary to it. Yeah, many times, like in a intensive prayer or fasting season, we receive a blessing, and then we feel like our practices are justified because look what has happened to me. Like, I was praying, I was worshiping, do the same. And it has happened just because we were open to receiving. Finally, at the end, we were open to receive something from the abundance God has always been pouring out on us. Yeah, we can be so silly with those Christian practices. So now I fast quite rarely. When I need to experience my freedom from food, and when I need some clarity, and when I really feel like doing it, it happens quite rarely. But I think this can be justified when it happens naturally. If you have this like burden about it, is something that you must do so that you make changes happen, if you feel like you need to convince God of something to be better than he than he is, and to do something for you he is not willing to do for you, or if you feel like you need to somehow add to what Jesus has done and help God out, if you feel like Jesus has done it all, and if your motivation comes from the part after but, maybe you need to stay at Romans 6 and Romans 8 for a while, and don't fast. Like, spend the time and attention you would spend on fasting, discovering the gospel. Like, I'm only scratching the surface, but the only good fruit of being radical is that I could try it all. Like, there are people who like have like half an hour to spend with God, and they say that if I could spend all my days, I would be so close and I would have such breakthroughs. And let me tell you, I've tried it. I've given all my time and all my effort and all my attention and all my fasting and all my prayers, and it was so great to do that, because I could finally realize that it is not about that. It is not the thing that makes the change. It is not the key, none of them. Because if you can never try it, you feel like, oh, if I could, like it worked. And I tried it, and I know that this is not what works. It's a great thing to know it. So I'm so happy that I made all those efforts, because it made me realize that my efforts don't really work. So yeah, don't be confused if you feel like fasting, if you're drawn to it, if it comes natural, if it's a joyful thing for you, if it's an expression of love towards God, if you have a good feeling about it, let's do it. But if there is any striving and burden and changing God and trying to make things happen, then I would say it's better to get to learn more on what has been accomplished on the cross, because it shifts your whole paradigm. Like it's just a tiny bit of revelation of the finished work just changes your whole perspective. Like, when I first had a little bit of understanding, not like a big thing, it's just a little bit, I felt like nothing I was doing made sense anymore. I had a collapse in the best sense. And yeah, so there is a point to, so the whole world profits from you understanding the gospel. So if you really want to shift, if you really want to make a change in the world, in yourself, invest into learning the gospel, instead of trying to make things happen that had already happened on the cross, actually before creation, because the lamb had been slain before the foundation of the world. Yeah, it was slain. The lamb was slain before the foundation of the world. Oh, I can't quote it. So that's all on fasting. That's all I can say about it right now. I'm not an expert or something. Maybe my views change in a week or in a year, but that's what God led me to about fasting, and I'm very happy that He had done this to me, and and God bless you.